What's happening, everybody? What's going on? Hope everybody's doing good. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Sorry for the delay. You know, we had to get some stuff in order. As you can see, John got a little darker in hue. Yeah, man. John had you know, some commitments he had to deal with today. So appreciate Josh, aka Uncle Fulio, for stepping up. You know, that's what we try to do for each other. And he's always, whenever I need him, he definitely, you know, fits the bill and he comes running, man. I appreciate him, bro. Thank you, Josh, for showing up, man.
Salute, Ron. I'm glad to be here. You know, always a pleasure being on, you know, with the Still Knicks Fans crew. And today we're on the NBA report. We're gonna break down this conference, and you know, let's get it popping, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you once again for being here. I appreciate it. You know, thank you to Jose, who's on the ones and twos in the background, holding us down. You know, he's the silent assassin. He's a warrior. He's a warrior. Anyway, yeah, man. So I just wanted to touch on a couple things, you know, that's going on. But most importantly, I think, like, you know, I don't know if there's something in the water or what's happening, bro. But these 50-point games are bananas. I swear, you know, the funny thing is I knew once one dropped, because I think, I don't want to, if I'm not mistaken, I think the first one was Jayson Tatum, because that was against the Nets about a week or two ago or so.
I thought it was Kyrie. I thought Kyrie had the first one.
No, Kyrie was after his.
Okay, Kyrie was after.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I felt like as soon as that first one dropped, I was like, oh, watch these dudes try to go out there and outdo them. But I didn't think it was going to be like this. Like this, This has been wild.
Right.
Like, and not even to mention the games that have been close. Like there's been a couple of 40+ games from people, unusual suspects like Josh Hart and Gary Trent Jr.
Right.
Yeah. So it's been a wild time, but it's fun. It's fun. About time we get some of this explosive stuff in basketball. I've been waiting for this.
Yeah. I mean, listen, some of these players, like we talk about, you know, the Kyries, the KDs, the Tatums, the LeBrons, the Cats. These guys are fighting for their playoff lives, right? You know, not really, you know, Boston. I think they're moving up in the standings, but for the rest of those teams, like, you know, they're on the outside looking in, or like right there on the brink of not making it, right? So these guys, the leaders of their teams, are stepping up and showing why they're, you know, perennial all-star players. So really exciting and good basketball to watch.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. I'm definitely excited for it. Definitely salute to the chat. Appreciate y'all. You know, Tricky Nicky's been in the building waiting for a minute. I appreciate you, Tricky Nicky, and also, you know, your shout out about the likes, man. Smash them likes. I appreciate that, Tricky Nicky. George Jones in the building. Geraldine McIver, Will Salkin, Kept Giggles. I appreciate y'all, man. Thank y'all for tuning in, you know, and supporting. So, without further ado, you know what? Why don't we take a look at a couple of highlights from some of these 50-point performances? We can kind of break them down a little bit. What you see here, there is not going to be an NBA Bismarcky Player of the Week this week, guys, because I just felt like, I mean, all these 50-point games, we had so much info to come from. Might as well show some of them. You know what I mean? So definitely, I think the first one probably we'll start with is this. The Jayson Tatum one. Now, okay. Last week we highlighted Jayson Tatum as our Bismarcky Player of the Week. So some of these highlights, this is from the same game, but we took some different highlights. So it is what it is. All right, see what we got going on here. Okay. So this is the thing. This was against the Nets, which made it impressive by itself. One thing I'll say about Jayson Tatum, bro, he just keeps getting better. I think by the time I don't even know. He's still like probably 25 or younger, right, Josh?
Yes, he is.
Yeah,
I
time
believe he's 25 years old.
And I think you always pointed to a player's prime is what, when they're 28, 27,
yeah,
28?
like 27 is when they start the prime of their careers. But if you look at this, and we're talking about a young player, right, under 25 or younger or what have you. But look at him taking advantage of the mismatch. Those first three highlights was against mismatches. This is another mismatch. Look at this on Aldridge right here, taking him to the rim, taking him off the dribble, right? And that's really important for a young player. And that's why we look at RJ and look at his growth. Right, because when RJ has those important scoring games or those big scoring games, he's taking advantage of the mismatch, right? Switching over, getting onto that big and taking that big to the lane, getting that foul, getting that and one, and getting himself to the free throw line. So that's really important for me when you look at a player's development and their growth, and to see them basically take that next step into dominance, right, or to perennial all-star or all-star category. That's what I look for, and Tatum did that wonderfully with those highlights.
Right. I agree with you. Tatum is he's a solid NBA player. He's just getting better and better. By the time he's
solid. I don't know about solid. I think it's better than solid.
I'm not giving him enough credit. Yeah, he's a star. It's a fact. And by the time he's 27, 28, definitely superstar level. He's probably already there. I'm just, it's great to watch him, man. It's great to watch him. And it doesn't hurt that he's from Duke, I'm a Dookie, so it is what it is. Now, these are in no particular order, guys. So it's not in the order that they dropped their 50 plus or whatever it is. I'm just dropping them when we're talking about them. I figure, you know what? Why don't we go? Let's do this one because this one hurts the soul. Might as well get this out the way. Ugh. Oof. Yeah, you know who this guy is.
Yeah, this is easy money sniper, right? This guy's probably one of the top 2 or 3 scorers of all time in NBA history, in my opinion. If not for that one season off or that injury, that ACL injury that he had, we'll probably be talking about him, breaking some of these records. And I think if he continues to play long enough, he's going to break that scoring record. He can beat you inside, outside. We're talking 6'10" with a 7 foot with a 6'10" wingspan. Can shoot from anywhere in the gym. It's just easy money. Easy money sniper.
It's a fact, man. And just so that we're all on the same page, Tatum dropped 54 in that game of those highlights that I was showing. Obviously, it wasn't the full highlights. We'd be here forever. And then Durant dropped 53 against our New York Knicks here. So this was it is easy money. Look how smooth he is. Like, you can't stop that shot.
Right. Yeah, there's nothing you can do about this. Listen, no one is going to stop Kevin Durant from scoring. It's just impossible to stop him from scoring with that height and that length. It's just unprecedented to see what he can do at that size on the floor. And just look at that.
Look at him talking. Look at man, talking.
There's nothing you can do about that, man.
Yo, KD is a handful, and he's a throwback because he's one of the old school type players that talks trash and does this thing on the court. Like, these new players don't really be talking like that. The newest young person that I've seen, I didn't like it. Of course, why it always has to be against us was Ja. Ja is a type that he be talking a little bit. So it's I don't mind it. Because I know some of these guys, they feed off of it. Plus, you know what? Our team can feed off it too if we're going up against them. Let them get in the game. Get them hot. Get them mad. I'll take it. So that was the Kevin Durant 53-point game. So this one, I figure we'll drop it right here in the middle. I didn't put both of his games because it's remarkable that he did it, but I only took one of his highlights. And that's this gentleman who's like Father Time. I don't even know how he's playing at this level anymore, man. Mr. LeBron James. This is his 50-point game that he dropped. But of course, you guys know he also had another 50-plus game, maybe about a week earlier. So, right. This is remarkable, Josh.
Yeah, listen, LeBron James has been doing this 18 years, right? This is 18 years of doing this in the NBA, of basically dominance in the NBA, getting whatever shot he wants. Look at that shot over Kuzma right there. You can't guard me, young man. And then watch that set the pick, get the mismatch that he wants, right? Take that to the rim, and boom, that's going to be a dunk and a slam, right? So, this is easy for LeBron James at this point in his career. And like you said, it's remarkable that he's doing this, but this is why he's one of the top 2 greatest players of all time because of the longevity, right? We talk all the time about, what Jordan's done in that little short period of time they played in the NBA. LeBron has longevity, and I think that's why you put him in the same conversation with the Kareems and the Mikes because of that fact. And he's just going to, do this all day. He's been taking people to the rack his whole career, right? So, as long as he continues to keep putting $1 million worth of money into his body, I think he'll continue to do this. And look at that, just like, the block, right? He can also give you that on the defensive end. So,
look at this rainbow is coming. Oh, it's a rainbow.
Over Porzingis. Over Porzingis, right?
You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, Josh. What we doing here with this dude, bro?
Can't do anything about it.
And the funny thing is, like, of course, he's grown. He's always been a big guy as far as body mass and everything compared to some of these other guys. But now, of course, he's a little older. So, he seems like he's a little bit wider, but he's still in good shape. It's just he looks so big compared to all the other players on the court. Like he's I don't,
a little bit more wider, a little bit more bow-legged.
Right. Yeah, man, but it's still LeBron. I mean, he can't do it every night, but some nights he can really be special out there. And for what he's doing at this advanced age in the NBA, like, I mean, listen, that's why, like you said, that's why he's one of the top 2 greats.
He's in that conversation. And to me, and I know I'm going to piss a lot of people off, to me, he is the greatest of all time, in my opinion. Because when you consider the championships and all the accolades and the MVPs that LeBron has won, I mean, that can rival Jordan, right? You can rival Jordan with that, right? I mean, obviously not the rings and not the finals record, win-loss record. But to me, the thing that takes LeBron over the top is longevity. 18 years in the NBA doing the same thing year in and year out. Come on, man. Come on.
I'm with you on that. I understand, and I mean, my preference is Jordan, but that's okay because I think it's all going to come down to preference. It's either you like LeBron more or you like Jordan more. That's all it is because either one is fitting to me at this point, and I can't see how a lot of people would say differently. I know we're not going to get into the whole Jordan LeBron thing, but I understand the reason for wanting it to be Jordan. But I gotta say, you can't take a lot away from what LeBron has been able to accomplish in this type of NBA. With the game being different, and he's still doing it at an advanced age. Like I think he's played, his tenure on the court is longer than Jordan's tenure, correct?
Yeah, I think Jordan only played 13 seasons. That's including the ones with the Wizards, right? LeBron is already at year 17, year 18. You know what I mean? It's still dominating the NBA, still in the MVP conversation. Like that's crazy,
right? Because I will say, even though Jordan is Jordan. Some of them Wizard days was, they don't look like LeBron's days at year 18. So I'm just saying.
Right.
Yeah. So that brings us to, I think I'll save the most impressive for last because it's just, it is what it is. Let's go to this gentleman right here. Oh, Mr. Kyrie Irving. This was pretty impressive in his own right because I think he had 36 or 38 by halftime. I mean, and not even playing consistently.
Is this the one he recently did? I think didn't he have 2 of them, or this is the only one he had?
No, this is the only 50+ one he had. The other one was 40-something.
Okay, so this is the one where he got 50 on like 19 shots or something like that.
Yes, sir. Yes,
to me,
sir.
this is to me the most impressive. 50 points on 19 shots. That is efficiency, like crazy efficiency. I mean, look, Kyrie is probably one of the most talented players in the NBA, obviously with his personal stuff that he has. A lot of people don't really like him like that. But to me, this guy is just talent defined. Everyone respects him when he comes on the floor. You can't take anything away from him. He has some of the best handles that I've ever seen. And he can basically score any way he wants to do it on you. Take it to the rack. He can shoot it. He played off the ball last season when James Harden was going primarily the facilitating. I mean, listen, Kyrie Irving is just a monster. And shout out to Tony Crow of Knicks and Bruises. Me and him had the argument about Kyrie versus Kemba. Yeah, this is Kyrie all day. All day.
And I apologize, Josh. I'm sorry. This is not you're right. You are correct. He did have 50. You're right. This is the 60-point game. That's what confused me. I forgot he had 50 and then he had 60.
Yeah,
yes, thank you.
I forget which one he did with 19 shots. Yeah, he did one of them with like 19 shots, some crazy efficiency.
That's this one. That's this one.
Oh, I mean, that's just a dominant performance. I mean, you can't get any better than that. So
he was 8 of 12 from 3-point land. I mean, just cooking, man. Cooking.
75% from 3. Wow. I
That's
mean,
crazy.
66% from three. Sorry,
That's
lost my math.
just nuts. It's nuts. Yeah. So yeah, he had an incredible performance with his 60 points. And as look, you're right. The efficiency is incredible. I can't take anything away from him. And then the fact that Kyrie's doing this, I mean, he's doing this without even playing consistently. He just has to remain hot, and that's tough. But that shows you that he's a star level player in the NBA, and even with time off, not even being fresh, he can still light it up. Now, it looks a little crazy. I will admit, watching some of these guys when they score these points, like I watched the full highlight reel of the Kyrie game, and sometimes he was waving guys off that were wide open. But it is what it is. If you cooking, go get yours, I guess.
Right. Right. I personally have no problem with that. As long as you're cooking, the team is on your back, and then you going for a record. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. And then last but not least, this is the one that I think to me is most impressive because I just think it's much harder for this guy to do what he did, and that's KarlAnthony Towns dropping 60 points from a 7-footer or a 6'11" guy. It's tough. I mean, yeah, he's got some outside shot with his game, but a lot of his buckets were inside. So this takes a lot out of you to score that many points.
Yeah, and I mean, I do think it's really impressive for a big man to be doing that. But you look at San Antonio; they have no paint defense whatsoever.
True.
This is not the old days that we're talking with David Robinson and Timmy, defending that paint. I mean, look at it. This is wide open for Cat. I mean, they ran that pick and roll to death. DeJounte Murray got caught on the pick and roll. They have no defense at the 5 whatsoever. This is Hurdle. Give me that. Kaka, let me take that. You know what I'm saying? So absolutely impressive for what Cat's doing. I mean, but I would have expected him to have at least 30. But he was extremely hot. And one thing of note, I think this was the anniversary of his mom's passing, I think, or something like that.
Oh, really?
Or something along those lines. It was a huge anniversary in his life that happened, or when he first found out, or something like that. So big ups to Cat, and I'm glad he's still doing what he's doing, despite all the tragedy that he's been through. So.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. And if that's the case, I mean, shout out to him. I didn't know that. There's been a couple things that have happened with regards to some of these performances that I wasn't aware of. Like, Steph Curry, I think had 46 points the night after this. And it was his birthday that day. So I didn't know that, like these are little things like, give them, these NBA players got the little extra oomph, like, oh, I want to show out on my birthday. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's great though. And shout out to Steph Curry. Hopefully he gets healthy soon. I see he got a little banged up. I think it was in last night's game or maybe the night before. I think it was last night. I think he got a sprained ligament in his ankle. So, yeah, that's tough, man. Hopefully he can get that taken care of and get back full strength for the team because they're going to need him in the playoffs.
No question about that.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, that's just a little quick homage to the barrage of 50-plus point games by some of these gifted athletes. And just thought we should highlight that. Because you know what I mean? Like it's a special time. March has been, the scoring has been crazy. And it's also interesting to see this type of scoring when you got about 14 games left in the season. Like guys are usually trying to, they're fighting to win games, but they're kind of coasting a little bit to save themselves for that playoff run. But these guys are going all out. So it's interesting.
Yeah, this is real good basketball. These guys are hooping. All-Star break is done. Now it's all about bragging rights for the teams that are not going to make the playoffs, and it's about advancing yourself and putting yourself in prime position to either get a home court spot or improve your seating so you improve the matchup that you play. So I think that during this time, even though people tend to coast, I do think there's something for these guys to play for. Albeit it's just personal pride at the end of the day as well.
Right.
You got to put that out there. So.
Agreed. So yeah, man, I think we should probably take a quick look at what's going on. Unfortunately, I usually just read this stuff off and we go over it. I don't have a slide up. I apologize. Need a little bit more time this week. So don't sue me, guys. So what I usually like to do is go over the conference, the top team, the bottom team, and where our Knicks fit in the conference currently. and then I get into the top three of each division. So right now, leading the Eastern Conference is the Miami Heat with a 46-24 record. And they are winners of their last one, so they're not really streaking, but they're doing pretty good as far as I would say they're coasting at the top right now. They got some company that we'll get into, but right now they look pretty good, man. Then you have the cellar dweller, which is the Orlando Magic at 18-52. Oof.
The cellar dweller.
Yeah, they've lost their last two in a row. They are currently playing. This is of note, so I'll bring it up. They're playing the other cellar dweller, who's 18-51, the Detroit Pistons, and who have lost their last four. So, and that's the only game on the docket tonight for the NBA. It's Detroit versus Orlando. That's must-see TV, guys. And then you got our New York Knicks, who are in the 12th spot right now with a 29-40 record, winners of their last game, which was last night against the Portland Trail Blazers. So yeah, let's just jump into the divisions real quick and kind of break these down a little bit, these top teams. I'll start with the Southeast Division, Josh. So Miami Heat, 46-24. They've won 7 of their last 10. What do you think about what Miami's got going on?
So listen, at the beginning of the season, before the season even started, a lot of people, when everyone had these high expectations for the Knicks, right? The Knicks are going to be probably a 4th or 5th seed. I had them at the 5th seed, but a lot of people were saying the Knicks are going to win 50 games and all of this stuff. A lot of people were sleeping on Miami, right? The first 2 teams you heard of was Brooklyn, Milwaukee, right? And then you heard, some people were saying Boston, and some people were saying, I forget the other team that Philly, the Sixers, right? People were talking about those teams, but no one said a thing about Miami. Why? Because the way Miami finished last season, right? And they didn't have, that spectacular kind of season. But I said the way this team plays defense, right? They will get back to where they need to be. And right now they're number 1 in the Eastern Conference, outbid number 1 in the Southeastern Division, right? At the addition of Kyle Lowry, right? That definitely helps them. They don't have to put the ball in Jimmy Butler's hand as much. They got Bam Adebayo back off of injury. Duncan Robinson is quiet because he got his contract, but come playoff time, he will light it up. And Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero is someone that no one is talking about right now. I really like Tyler Hero in that same draft class as RJ, Garland, and the rest of those guys. He's coming off the bench, and he is a bucket. Right. Yeah. So Miami is nothing to play with. People need to be afraid of Miami. They're going to be a tough out. And I don't think any team wants to see Miami right now.
I agree with you on that, man. And you ain't lying. Tyler Hero is cooking. You talk about a player, like, you just look at his stat line every night. You see him 20+ points. Like, he's really, as far as a scoring option, he's the consistent one on Miami. Like, he's doing it for them. So listen, you can't be mad when some people. Like, I think some things have changed with regards to RJ and how he's playing basketball now. But that whole thing about Hero being better than RJ, I mean, listen, he's been consistent all year doing
out the gate. And then this is out the gate. And, you say this stuff to a lot of the Knicks fans and some of the RJ fans. They're like, oh, Josh, you just hating on RJ. You just want to hate on him. You just want to do this. And I'm just, calling it like I see it. Since the beginning of the season, Tyler Hero has been a bucket. A constant bucket for Miami. The only reason he's not starting is because they have a legit starting lineup out there. They really don't need him to start. He just come off the bench and do what he's doing. And this is why I felt like, with RJ, with his struggles in the beginning of the season, playing next to Randall, I thought that it would have been okay to, give RJ some more time with that second unit to have him cook a little bit more, similar to what Hero's doing. And RJ Barrett's definitely turned it around. No question about that. He's become more consistent. But since day one from this season, Tyler Hero's been cooking. He's a bucket off the bench. Like, he can score inside, outside, pull up jump shots, scoring off the dribble, making plays for himself. So, he's been a really help addition for Miami. And I think that's going to help him come playoff time.
Right. And that's actually an interesting point that you said there, Jason Garrett, that he does get the benefit of playing against a lot of second units, but some of these second units have good players. And don't forget that when Hero is out there cooking, he comes in with that second unit, but then as the game goes along, he transitions and he's a part of that first unit when the rotations change. So yeah, but I see your point. Yeah, but listen, Hero's been good all year. I listen. I can't say anything bad about him. I've witnessed it. He's won me a couple bread, a little money on the side too. But anyway, I digress. I digress.
I think Tyler Hero and Jason Garrett, you're absolutely right. Right, he does play against other teams, second units or what have you. I think Tyler Hero is good enough to start in the NBA. I think he's good enough to start in the NBA, and I think he's good enough to go give you buckets in the NBA. I'm not talking about no 30 points a night. I'm not talking about one of the game's best scorers and leading the league in scoring, anything like that. But Hero can go out and get you a quick 15 points if he started in the NBA, no problem. In my opinion, based on his game and how he plays basketball. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's shown himself to be legit. Like last year, no, 2 years ago in the bubble, we saw him come alive, and we were like, okay, is this kid for real? And then last year, he kind of struggled a little bit. He had some stuff going on, some personal issues. A lot of, he's a young kid. He's kind of flashy. He was living the life a little bit. But this year he's kind of reeled it all back in. Like he still had a really good year last year. I'm just saying, like, he took a little dip from that bubble experience because he was crazy in the bubble. Right. But yeah, now he's back to that. So kudos to him and good for Miami. They find a way. They got good players over there, and even the people coming off the bench have been really good for them. So we'll see what happens come playoff time. And then that brings us to the Charlotte Hornets, who are 35-35. Winners of their last 3, and they are 6-4 in their last 10. And if there was ever a team, Josh, that is like Jekyll and Hyde, it's this Charlotte Hornet team, man. I don't know what. Sometimes I'm like, oh, this is going to be a buzzsaw. No pun intended with the Hornet stuff. But then I'm like, oh, they stink. And then I'm like, oh no, they don't stink. They're actually good. They get a lot of hiccups, man. I don't know. What do you think about them?
Yeah, and living down here in Charlotte, I have the great benefit and just the great benefit of watching these people out here with these Hornets jackets and some with the jerseys and the ball jersey on the back, and everything like that. And I'll be at the game this Wednesday, so I'll be going there. I'll be there with Jay Boogie. We got some seats right near the tunnel, so you might see us on MSG again, right? But like you said, the Hornets are Jekyll and Hyde. I still think they're a young team trying to figure themselves out. I think this team needs a leader. I'm talking about someone in that locker room and the starting unit, I think, to probably galvanize them and kind of take them where they need to go, right? I kind of look at them as kind of like that Phoenix team, when they made that bubble run and just barely missed the playoffs. They're like still really young. They just need that one piece to take them to that next level. Because LaMelo Ball is going to be a star in the NBA. He's already marketed like one. He plays a good basketball game. He's a really good point guard, already an all-star, right? But they just need something else to go along with Bridges and to take them to that next level. And I think that's just what they're missing. So we'll see. Let's see if they can be able to, bring someone in the offseason and moving forward to take them to that next level.
Yeah, I hear you. I agree. I don't know how to call that team anymore. They surprised it, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go on a nice little run here going into the playoffs. They're a wild card team. Yeah, they're wild. I don't know. Yeah. And then this brings us to another team that I could say this is like carbon copy. These Atlanta Hawks, who are 34-35 record, winners of 6 of their last 10, just like Charlotte. However, they lost their last game. I wonder, was that to Charlotte? I feel like they just played each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and like Atlanta's tough because they've been battling the injury bug all year long. They haven't really been able to get right. When they were healthy, they had some chemistry issues. They weren't playing the way they normally play. And then since then, they've gotten better as far as how they play, but they don't have all the sum of their parts. They lost John Collins, then now they got him back. But kind of he still sits from here, time to time, because I guess he's still working back into shape. Then you get a great string of performances from Trae Young, Rayford, that is. And then, he put up a stinker as far as points totals against Charlotte. I think he had 9 points after scoring like 40s and 30s. And, he did everything else. Like he had a good amount of rebounds, like 6 or 7 rebounds. He had like 14 assists. So this is one of those days, man. This is a wild team, man. And I know, you're in Charlotte, but you're not that far from the Atlanta situation either. So what do you think
Two
about
and a
what they
half,
got
3
going
hours.
on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I went to the last Atlanta Knicks game in Atlanta during the middle of a snowstorm when the Carolinas and Georgia got hit with a huge snowstorm and messed my car up. But that's a different story. And we won that game, right? That was a good game for RJ Barrett. That was the game after they traded Cam Reddish for Kevin Knox. So Cam Reddish was sitting there with his gray hoodie on. I was sitting right there behind the bench and I got to see everything and Tibbs calling everything and watching the Atlanta Hawks fans kind of leave the building early. But my thing with Atlanta is, and if people act like Atlanta is the best way to rebuild the team, right? They say, well, Herter's been playing 20 minutes ever since he came into the NBA, and Trae Young's been playing, and John Collins has been playing, and all three of those guys are signed. But the issue with that is once they sign those guys, they sign Bogdanovich, they're capped out, right? So they have a bunch of long-term contracts, at least 3-4 year contracts that they cannot move, right? So they're capped out. They cannot get better whatsoever unless they trade one of those guys, right? So I would think again for the people that say that we need to be like the Hawks and be a team like that and just play young guys from the outset, because eventually you have to pay these guys and ultimately you got to be able to build a team, and right now Atlanta can't do that, right? So I think that the best we're ever going to see Atlanta do is what they did last season, get into the conference finals. I don't think they get anywhere further than that unless they make some moves and break up the core, and get rid of Herter and Bogdanovich and maybe even Capella, right? So I think Atlanta has some things they still have to figure out before they go to the next level.
Sometimes they say if you can't beat them, join them. We may not want to be like Atlanta, but we may have to deal with Atlanta a little bit more going forward because they're in a tough situation too. So maybe we can scratch each other's back. I don't know.
Well, we already did. We got Cam Reddish for
That's true.
Kevin Knox
That's
gave him
true.
a first-round pick, and I think Reddish is still yet to be seen with Cam Reddish. I think next season is the season for the Knicks to evaluate Cam Reddish and whether they want to keep him around long term. If not, then even Cam Reddish himself is a trade piece. I hate to tell Knicks fans who think Cam Reddish is going to be here, long term, and it's already set in stone. I think we still have yet to see that. I'm hoping that's the case, but we still got to see.
Yeah, you ain't lying about that. That's true. The verdict is still out. Hopefully things come together, and things work out. But only time will tell. Because the other thing that just worries me a little bit quickly about Cam is just the fact that every time he kind of gets going, he gets some type of injury. This was kind of the knock, like with Mitch. Not that Mitch is injury prone, but every time Mitch got a good roll and he started to go and started to come into his own, he would get like some nagging injury that would creep up and kind of derail him. But this year he's been pretty damn solid. So we'll talk a little bit more about Mitch and the Knicks a little later. But just thought that's an interesting point with Cam because he tends to get these freak injuries, man.
Right.
So then that brings us to the Central Division. The Milwaukee Bucks are leaders over there with a 44-26 record. They've won their last 2 games and they're 8-2 in their last 10. Milwaukee's solid. Milwaukee definitely seems like they're going to be, right there at the very end once again. Like now it's like you can just, you're going to have to knock them off. And we'll see who's the team that can do it, man. What do you think about how Milwaukee looks?
Milwaukee is going to be, like you said, they're going to be there at the end. I think they're going to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think there's any doubt about that. This team has been together. This core group of guys has been together for the last 3 years. I think Holiday came, his first year was last year, but now they're back together for another season. It's going to be tough to beat this team. And they just got Brook Lopez back the other day, right? So they got that piece back.
Really?
They just got him back, right? So right in time for the playoffs, you know what I'm saying? So they anything short of them, losing Giannis and Antetokounmpo to some type of freak injury, knock on wood, or anything like that, they'll be competing for, a title again. They'll be in that Final Four. It's just a matter of, can they get to the finals again, and can they actually pull it off? So really good team, hard to beat them.
Wow. You know what? I didn't know that, Josh, because I've stopped my Brook watch. I used to be like constantly every 3 weeks or so checking to see what's going on with Brook. And then it got to a point where I wasn't even getting any updates about what they had going on. So I just kind of stopped checking for him. I was like, okay, I guess he's not coming back. But the fact that he's back, to me, that kind of makes them the favorites because Brook gives them a dynamic. If he's healthy and can play, he's a good defender. He's a pretty good rebounder. And the way he stretches the floor for them. Like Bobby Portis is doing it, but when you can have Brook doing and Bobby Portis doing it, that dynamic is tough.
With the guy like Giannis who needs to get to the paint, right? So now you got guys that can stretch the floor out. And this is what I was saying about the Knicks, right? This is what the Knicks need. The Knicks need a guy who can stretch the floor out. It's nice to have Mitch down there blocking shots. That's all cool, fine, and dandy. But offensively, he's a little bit of a glut in that paint. So when RJ and Randall and those guys are not knocking down their shots, the Knicks really don't have a way to really score and get to the line because you got Mitchell Robinson there in the paint. And if you're not setting up any plays for him, his man is just going to come and cheat over and double team Randall or double team RJ or double team whoever else is out there, right? If you go back to the Philly game when we played Philly and the Knicks gave RJ the ball on one side of the floor and had him isolate, Mitchell Robinson was on the other side of the floor by himself, and Joel Embiid just left Mitch and went over there to shade RJ, right? That is a problem for the Knicks, particularly if they're not knocking down their shots. So this is why I like a player like Brook Lopez that can be able to stretch the floor out, still defend, still play tough inside, still rebound, but able to knock down that shot once in a while.
That's a really good point. Yeah, good take on that because that's true, and that's where we are very limited. We'll see what they do going forward, but that's an issue. You're right. And so that's great news for Milwaukee, and we'll see how it translates going into the playoffs. Hopefully, he's healthy for the long haul. Then that brings us to number 2 in the Central, and that's the Chicago Bulls, who they're 41-28. They've lost 7 of their last 10,
right?
And they've lost their last 2. So they're picking a really bad time to go on a little bit of a losing spell, and it's kind of interesting because the team itself has been the same for quite some time. They've been without They've been without Patrick Williams basically the whole season. They've been without Caruso for a lot of time as well, but they just recently got Caruso back, and I thought that was going to energize them, his defense and the kind of things he can bring to the court, along with DeRozan, along with Levine, but they have struggled because I forgot you can't forget that they've also been without Lonzo Ball. Right. So that is a problem. Lonzo is like the key, because I was just about to say one of the things you could see with this team is they kind of do lack a point guard. They miss that. So and I think that's affecting them right now. But I think they'll be good. I think the timing and the chemistry is kind of off. I've noticed DeRozan has taken a little drop off in his production. He had a good game last night, but a couple games prior to that, he had 2 stinkers. Not stinkers, but for him, they weren't the best type of game. The way he's been playing, So I think they just need a little time to kind of start gelling again. What do you think about what you've seen from the Chicago Bulls?
Yeah, there's no question they miss Lonzo Ball. There's no question they miss that point guard presence out there. I know both Levine and DeRozan have a super high usage rate. They share that usage rate, though. They both have, I think, 28, 29, 30% usage rates, and they collective together. Not collectively, simultaneously, they both have that type of usage rate, right? So the ball is going to one of those guys every time down the floor, right? They still have Vucevic. Vucevic is not hit the same Vucevic that we've seen in Orlando. But to me, I think Chicago's truly missing the point guard just to take a little bit of pressure off of Levine and off of DeRozan. Those guys are going to knock down shots, but I believe the difference that they need really is just, a point guard. Last year when they didn't do so well, I think it's because they didn't have a point guard. And this year, because Lonzo Ball's been out, it's really hard for them to really catch their footing.
Wow. I mean, yeah, I agree with you, man. This is crazy, dude. I guess that's what happens when I stay away from this stuff and don't constantly check. Then all this stuff starts to happen. Apparently, Patrick Williams is getting real close to coming back himself. Right. He's already cleared for contact. And so, he's going to start working out. They're going to start probably giving him some G League reps. So that he could be back with the Bulls, and that's big because if they get Patrick Williams back, they're still waiting on Lonzo Ball. He should be back shortly, and if they get all the sum of their parts going, oh man, this is like it's tough for me because I want to give the favorite to Milwaukee, but and I'm not saying Chicago will be a favorite, but they'd definitely be a much more worthy contender. So that's interesting.
Yeah, they'll definitely compete. Listen, I think they'll, Patrick Williams coming back is going to be huge for them. Young guy, live body. He was a number 4 pick in the draft, I believe, number 4, right? Can definitely knock down some shots, be tough down there in the paint. But to me, the difference for them is getting back Alonzo Ball and also Alex Caruso, who is a pest out there, right? A pest out there who can go out, defend. They're really going to miss those 2 guys more than anything, in my opinion.
Agreed. And so that brings us to the third team in the Central Division, who they were really cooking and things looked like they were going really good for this team. But they're another team that just has been having some bad luck with the injury bug. That's the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are 39-30. They are 4-6 in their last 10 games. They lost their last game. The loss of Jarrett Allen is huge for this team. I mean, you already don't have like a tremendous amount of point guard depth, even though Garland has been great now that he's been back with them. But, having Rondo spotty when he's not always healthy, Rubio being out, Sexton being out, then losing Jarrett Allen, it's tough, especially right now, like when you're trying to make your playoff run. What do you think about Cleveland, Josh?
Young team, right? We all know that the talent that they have, they were, coming out of the gate hot, beating some of these teams. They beat up on us. We had no chance against those guys, young and athletic. But I think this is what a lot of young teams go through. A lot of people, particularly Knicks fans, right, they tend to crown teams and crown a lot of players before they're actually ready yet, right? And Cleveland is a really good team. Don't get me wrong. They're a really good team, but I still think they're too young in the process yet. They will eventually find their way. But right now, I just don't think it's their time yet. And, it's good that the young kids are going through this now and experiencing this. And I think it'll pay off in the future.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I agree with that, too. Like, they, to me, are exceeding a lot of expectations. I know, of course, people can look at the roster and say, well, one, let's not forget, when we saw what they were doing last year, there was a lot of people who had a lot of question marks as how they were building this roster. Because if you think about how I don't want to say I think they were pretty adequate at guard and wing, but the power forward area and center area, I mean, Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley, Lauri Markkanen,
Right.
I'm forgetting names, but like all these bigs that they brought in, I'm like, wow, this is it's interesting. And so people were a little perplexed as to what they were doing. And gotta say, their blueprint has been successful. Barring injuries, this team could, who knows what they could challenge for, because they've been playing really well.
Yeah, and that's the thing that kind of dispelled that whole notion about them bringing in 2 bigs is Evan Mobley's versatility, right? Evan Mobley can play 4 in the NBA. He can step out, knock down some shots. He can take, rebound on the inside. He is going to be a dominant force in this league for a long time. And to me, I have him second in Rookie of the Year right now behind someone else in Toronto. But, Evan Mobley is going to be really good in this league for a while. So.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. He's just growing into it. I mean, one of the knocks I had on Evan Mobley real quick was that I think he needed to put a little bit more time and effort into his rebounding. But I know it makes it tough when you got a guy like Jarrett Allen, who's a vacuum cleaner out there snatching everything. But with Jarrett Allen being out, you've watched Evan Mobley's rebounding totals go up. So it's obviously something he can do. It's all about, I guess, opportunity. When you got somebody like Jarrett Allen who's so good at it, it does take away from your own growth with regards to that. So, but
right.
He's definitely a special one. So that brings us to the Atlantic Division. And just right out the gate, you got the Philadelphia 76ers, who are 42-26, leaders of that pack. They've won 7 of their last 10. They won their last game. And they've been looking really good. But I don't know if their chemistry is all there yet. There's still some pieces of the team that haven't really elevated their game, or they haven't really gelled with the fact that now they got James Harden. I think what James Harden has done, he's made Embiid's life a lot easier by giving them a second dynamic option. And he's also a guy who makes guys on the court better. Because he is a good guy getting assists and putting people in right position. I think the one who's benefited the most from James Harden being there is Tyrese Maxey, because his game is definitely looking a lot better since he arrived.
No question.
And conversely, or adversely Tobias Harris, who hasn't looked as good with Harden being there. I don't know what's the issue there. I don't know why they're not necessarily gelling that well, because you figure when you had Ben Simmons, that was another guy who needed the ball in his hands, but he would find you. But yes, he's not a shoot first type of player, but I don't see why Tobias is struggling so much. What do you think about Philadelphia and that dynamic that got going on over there?
So Philly, excuse me, Philly has always been a perennial number 1, number 2, number 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. They've always been that, right? With Simmons and Embiid and whoever, right? So people, and particularly Sim, I know you're watching. Sim, we were arguing in the beginning of the season, about Ben Simmons and his impact on Philadelphia. They are going to be a number 1, number 2 seed. They just built for the regular season. My issue with them now, and this James Harden move is, first of all, they gave up too much, but they'll get to the dance. They'll make some noise. They'll win a lot of their share of the games in the regular season. But come playoff time, they are not deep. They are extremely limited, right? I mean, I like Thibault. Thibault's a good piece for them to bring off the bench, and Danny Green and stuff like that. But outside of that, they have no one else to me on the bench that can go out and get buckets for them. You know what I'm saying? Shake Milton, I like him. Good player. He can probably score once in a while, but you really can't depend on Shake Milton to go out there and get you buckets off the bench. And to me, that's the issue with Philly. They'll compete as long as they got Harden and they got Embiid, right? They'll compete. But when those guys are out the game, I think it's going to be extremely tough for Philadelphia to put the ball in the basket. And to me, that's what's going to limit them. In regards to your question about Tobias Harris and Maxey, that whole dynamic, bringing in Harden, Maxey was doing this before Harden got there, right? Maxey was already starting to take that next step. And I think it's because he's playing with a great player like Joel Embiid. He don't have to do too much, right? And now even better with Harden out there, that's the reason why he's doing what he's doing. Harris, on the other hand, the difference between Harden and Simmons is that Harden is going to put up a ton of shots. He's going to isolate a little bit more. And Harris is not going to have the ball in his hands. So Harris is been relegated to much more of an off-the-ball kind of player, and I think that's been affecting him. He's still trying to get used to that role. But Philly will be in it. They'll be in it. They'll compete. But to me, I think their lack of depth is what's going to cost them games or cost them playoffs.
I could agree with that. That makes sense. So then that brings us to me, I still feel like this is one of the hottest teams in the NBA, definitely one of the hottest teams in the East. And that's the Boston Celtics. Because if you look at, first off, they're 42-28, winners of the 8 of their last 10. They won their last game as well. But it's just where they started, like how they struggled so much out the gate. And they couldn't really find themselves. They couldn't put it all together. And then they started to win a couple games here and there, put together a little mini streak of 3-4 games. Then they'll lose 2 games, and then blah, blah, blah. And then they just got hot. They won like 9 in a row. Then they lost a couple games, and then they got hot again and won on another. Like they look like they are clicking on all cylinders. And I still think it's interesting that Tatum is playing so well, and the rest of the team is kind of rallied around him, and they've upped their level of play. But they still haven't gotten the best out of Jaylen Brown this year. He's been hampered with different injuries, and I just kind of think like he still hasn't got it going yet. And the funny thing is, I was going to save this for some other time. I thought of doing a comparison video, but I probably won't do it. So I'll just say it now. If you look at Jaylen Brown this year and look at RJ Barrett, is there a difference? Because I looked at what they both bring to the game and what they do on the court and their numbers. I mean, if anything, you could say RJ Barrett's been playing better. It's interesting to me. So I don't know. What do you think about all that, Josh?
Not quite. Let me just
gotta look at the numbers.
Excuse me. Let me just say that. Listen, no doubt. I mean, listen. Boston's definitely been playing much better basketball, and I think you are correct in regards to the numbers, right? I think if you look at what RJ Barrett's been doing lately compared to what Brown's been doing, yeah, you can definitely compare them. I think that it's cool to have them in the same conversation. And I do think because of injury, that's the reason. Injury to Jaylen Brown, that's the reason, right? But when Jaylen Brown's healthy, to me, Jaylen Brown, I don't want to say is a better player than Tatum, but I would prefer to have a player like Jaylen Brown over Tatum because Jaylen Brown, to me, can play defense. He can knock down the 3 ball. He can score on the inside. He can isolate. he can dominate. He has that capability of being a dominant type of player, right? And RJ Barrett's working his way to get there too. You know what I'm saying? But to me, I just think Jaylen Brown is already at that level. We just need to see him healthy, right? And I'll just say this about Boston. I think they're missing a point guard. I think that's always been their thing. They don't have a guy that can facilitate the offense and get Brown and Tatum in their spots, so they don't have to dominate the ball as much, right? Mm-hmm. Marcus Smart is going to do it, but Marcus Smart is just, to me, he is not a point guard. He's a good guy to have on the team, a good role player, good defensive player. He's going to go out and get steals and be that energy guy, high energy, type of guy, but they still are missing the point guard. And I think eventually that's what's going to be their downfall. Robert Williams is playing really good basketball, really good defender. They're running a lot of pick and roll for him, getting them that alley-oop. So he's been playing really good basketball. Their defense is much improved, right? And that's due to Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown plays really good defense. He can go out and guard the opposing team's, first or second best player. But to me, offensively, they're going to need a point guard and set up that offense.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think you can clearly see that a point guard would help them out a lot, which you got to look at that. And that's another thing for the Knicks to take a look at. I hope they try to do something next year, but that's something for them to take a look at in the offseason, because there's other teams that have a severe need for a point guard on their team too. So you're fighting with those teams. And they might have a more flexible situation in order to acquire that talent before the Knicks can. So
right,
it's going to be interesting. And then that brings us to the third team in the Atlantic Division, and the last team we're going to talk about in the Atlantic in this capacity is the Toronto
Canada.
the Toronto Raptors. Now, I gotta say, the Toronto Raptors are 39-30. They've won 7 of their last 10. They've won 5 in a row. Now, this is the second time in the past month of games, like 30 games or so, that they've gone on a streak. They've won 5 in a row right now. Earlier in the month, like 30 games ago, they had a streak similar to Boston. I think Boston had won 9 in a row and Toronto had won 9 in a row at the same time. This team is really good. The problem with this team is they keep getting hit with the injury bug. And I also think that they are special because they're doing this in spite of, I think their bench is not that great. When I look at their team and I look at what happens, like when Fred VanVleet is out the game, when you got Scotty Barnes stepping up, which is great. You got Pascal Siakam doing what he normally does. You get some effort from Gary Trent Jr. On the defensive end, he's great. And then sometimes on the offensive end, he really steps his game up. But sometimes he just plays he coasts. So he may give you like that 15 to 18. And so they're missing a little something from the bench. I think that's the only knock I could see with this team, that one, they're dealing with some injuries. Like VanVleet is still dealing with a nagging knee injury. So sometimes, he could be out there, he has a good game, or it just doesn't feel right another day. So I think if they were healthy and had everybody going, and Anunoby and all these guys, that's a tough team. What do you think about Toronto, bro?
Scrappy, well coached. This is like a team that, out of the San Antonio mold of Popovich, putting them in the lab and just kind of like playing, really good basketball, right? It's really difficult to judge this team because this is a team that can give a lot of these top seeded teams fits, right? Because of how well coached they are, because of how disciplined they are. They really don't have wasted possessions out there on the floor. High IQ basketball players. To me, the difference with them is just, talent. That's just their issue. And I look, Scotty Barnes to me is going to be MVP, Rookie of the Year. Okay, he's going to be Rookie of the Year in my opinion. I think he's that lethal. I think he's going to be a really good basketball player in a few years. To me, I think if he continues to stay with Nick Nurse and have Nick Nurse coach him up, it's kind of going to be similar to like a Duncan Popovich kind of thing if they put the right pieces around him. But he's still very young. He's only 20 years old, right? Mm-hmm. But this is a scrappy, young, well-coached team, and they're going to give a lot of teams a run for their money. But to me, they just, are not there. They need, more talent, in my opinion.
I agree with that.
They win based off their effort and how well they're coached. They don't win games based off their talent.
Right. That's true. They are. They're really interesting because I just think that I don't expect them to go too far in the playoffs, if they're in it. You know what I mean? But I think that wherever they do go in this year's playoffs is tied to the health of Fred VanVleet. Like he has to be healthy to give them a shot to even get out of the first round or whatever situation they're in. I do say one thing that's interesting is if I was the Brooklyn Nets, I wouldn't want to play Toronto in a play-in game or anything like that, especially in a first round series, because they're a tricky team because not only are they scrappy, like you said, and if you got a healthy Van Vliet, he can make them very tough with the way they play. But Toronto unless something changes, Toronto puts Brooklyn in a really bad situation because there's no Kyrie.
And either way, I was going to say
either way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
that's tough. That's tough.
And it's real. And I definitely think you're right. I don't think Toronto has anyone on KD's level, but we're just talking about KD here. We still don't know what Ben Simmons is going to be about. We still don't know what they got going on with that.
True.
I do think Brooklyn is a little bit better off after the Harden trade, though, because of everyone they got. They got a center and Drummond, right? They got a point guard, as in Seth Curry. I mean, he's not legitimately playing point guard, but he put him out there. He doesn't do majority of the ball handling duties, but he can knock down shots. So they are a much different team, right? And I think they're improved a little bit more on defense with Bruce Brown and stuff like that. But I do think you're right. Toronto in a play-in type, game situation, Toronto going to give them a run for their money. And I still ain't going to pick Toronto because in a game on the line, my life on the line, I'm taking KD all day, every day. You can bet that. But Toronto is real scary. You know what I'm saying? Toronto's real scary. So we'll see how it all plays out.
Nah, I hear you, man. I hear you. I'm with you on that. Can't be mad at you because they're a tough team, man. It's not something to overlook. I will say that you got to take them serious.
No question about that.
Yeah, man. So that's kind of like the rundown of the East, and just for the usual kind of give people an idea of what's going on in the West right now. The top three teams still remain. The Phoenix Suns, who are at 56-14. They're won 7 of their last 10. They're on a 3-game win streak. You got the Memphis Grizzlies, who kind of flip-flop with Golden State. They are 48-22. They've won 7 of their last 10. They've won 4 in a row. And then you got Golden State in third place with a 47-23 record. They've won 4 of their last 10. They lost 6 of their last 10, and they lost their last one. Now, the problem with Golden State, once again, is that they haven't been healthy. And I think the biggest key for them to win a lot of games consistently is having Draymond out there. Now, they just got Draymond back. Problem is, they just lost Curry. Like, this is their team that's been going through it as well with these injuries. Like, they can't be full strength. If they're full strength, then I would say Golden State would solidify that second spot, because they're not catching Phoenix, but they would solidify that second spot and get back to number 2. But with Curry being out, man, they might kind of linger around this spot, and hopefully, the West is tough because you got Utah, who's 3.5 games behind them, and Dallas is 3.5 games behind them. It's kind of tied together over there.
For sure. I mean, listen. For me, Golden State, I don't think they're really worried about these games coming down the stretch. I think they're all just preparing themselves, get healthy for playoff time. I think this injury to Steph Curry, I think they know that they're going to prepare Steph Curry. Was it 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
They'll be all right. They know the season ends in 2 weeks, and they're just going to prepare themselves for the playoffs. They're going to be in good position to get a home seed or whatever. So I think they'll be okay. To me, I think Klay Thompson's lost a little bit of a step. You can tell he's still trying to, find his rhythm and come back. He's still knocking out some 3-pointers, but he's not the same Klay before those injuries. And you can tell he's still trying to find his way. I don't like the whole thing with the headband. Take the headband off, cut your hair, give yourself a little light Caesar, like it was before the injury, and get back to that Klay. This version of Klay, I think is cool, but it's not where he used to be. And they're still trying to get Draymond back, get him back into the fold. So I think the Warriors will be fine come playoff time. They're not really worried about this. That being said, Phoenix is, to me, is the most complete team in the NBA. I mean, they're just the most complete team in the NBA. They can beat you defensively, offensively, inside, outside, at the foul line. They can fast break, half court. They can beat you anyway. I think they're going to be really, really dangerous come playoff time. To me, I have them winning the West right now. That's my pick to win the West. And it's going to be them versus whoever comes out of the East, whether it be Milwaukee or whether it be Brooklyn. I think it's going to come down to that. And Memphis, I think they play a good brand of basketball as well. Can't take anything away from Memphis. But I just think that you stop Ja, I believe you can be able to stop some of those other pieces they got, right? So it's a little bit easier to beat Memphis than it is to me to beat Phoenix and to beat Golden State come playoff time. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't see anybody really messing with the Suns out there in the West. And the reason why I say that is because I've seen the Suns win some games on nights when they don't have anybody. Like, to me, I'm like, what they're throwing out there? And they still playing good basketball, bro.
Yep.
Like, it's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah,
Top
tough.
5 in points per game, top 5 in assists, top 5 in steals, top 5 in rebounds, top 5 in defensive points per game. The opponent's field goal like they can literally beat you any way you want. You say, okay, take that away, they're gonna beat you that way. And I think that's gonna be difficult for any team in the Western Conference to get past. So
you ain't lying there, bro, and I'm definitely with you on that. So I gotta say that the Phoenix Suns are to me the team to beat in the West. And we'll see, because if they are able to get Chris Paul soon, that would definitely change what they got going on and take them back to being the solidified best team in the West.
Right.
So we'll see, man. Well, listen, before we get into our Knick talk, this is the point of the show, Josh, where we like to celebrate, Still Knicks Fans and NBK. We celebrate our legends here. You know what I mean? Like, these people have paved the way. We can't forget about these people. And the legend that we picked for today's show is one that is not going to sneak up on anybody. You know who it is. The problem is, I think people be getting it twisted, man. They forget how good this player was. And some of these young guys, these young NBA fans, they don't do all the research because they're living in the now. Like, you got to go back and look at some of these guys, man. They were special. So let's take a look at our NBA legend for tonight's show. That's right. That's one Mr. Dominique Wilkins. He is the human highlight reel. And he's not a man to be playing with. He's a bad man. Or should I say he was? But he still is, because he's still in the NBA capacity. He still judges these dunk competitions and stuff, sometimes with his harsh grades and stuff. He's rough out there on these young whippersnappers, man. But let me read a little breakdown for Dominique, and then we can talk about him a little bit. So, oh boy, this is tough on the eyes, but you guys get it. Dominique Wilkins, vice president. He's the basketball and special advisor to the CEO in Atlanta. He's the most celebrated player to ever put on a Hawks uniform, and is represented in front of State Farm Arena by an 18,500-pound bronze statue erected on March 2015. Hall of Famer Dominique. You saw it? Oh, man.
Yes, I went to the game. I've seen it. We passed. It's right next to the when you go into the arena, right there.
Wow. Hall of Famer Dominique Wilkins is the Hawks vice president of basketball and special advisor to the CEO, as I said. The 6'8" forward who concluded his NBA career with a 26,668 points, is the 13th all-time leading scorer in league history, and his 24.8 career scoring average is tied for 13th on the all-time charts. Wilkins' 23,292 points with the Hawks are the franchise's best, and he ranks second in team history in steals with 1,245, fourth in rebounds with 6,119, seventh in block shots with 588, and eighth in assists with 2,321. One of the league's true marquee players, his outstanding contributions on the court were recognized by the organization in January 2001, when he became the third player in club history to have his uniform number 21 retired, joining the Hawks legend Bob Pettit and Lou Hudson. Wilkins led the Hawks to the playoffs in 8 of his 12 seasons. His finest hour with the Hawks came during the 1988 postseason when Atlanta narrowly missed reaching the Eastern Conference Finals as the Boston Celtics eked out a 2-point victory in Game 7 of the conference semifinals. Wilkins averaged 31.2 points in 12 playoff contests that year, and having participated in 10 years of playoff competition, scored 25.4 points per game. This is a bucket getter, folks. After missing, this is interesting. I thought this was crazy. After missing only 18 of a possible 738 regular season games in his first 9 years. You know what that is, to miss only 18 games in 9 years?
Pretty good.
Wilkins, crazy. Wilkins suffered a season-ending tear of his Achilles tendon midway through the 1991-92 season. Wilkins responded the next season by scoring 29.9 points per game to finish second to Michael Jordan for the league scoring title. How do you come off of an Achilles and almost average 30 points a game? That is nuts. He was a member of the NBA All-Rookie team in 1983 and was named to 7 All-NBA teams, 9 consecutive All-Star squads, and was a 2-time winner of the NBA Slam Dunk competition in 1985 and 1990. Mr. Dominique Wilkins, a NBA legend. We appreciate you. Salute to you, sir. Man. Woo-wee. Think about Dominique, Josh.
So the last thing that stood out to me is because earlier I was talking about how great of a scorer Kevin Durant was, right? And you mentioned him averaging almost 30 points coming off an Achilles injury, right? People say KD, right? Dominique Wilkins did that 30 years ago, right? I mean, listen, Dominique Wilkins, obviously one of the greatest players of all time, finally got his recognition being one of the greatest basketball players when he got inducted as a top 75 basketball player. To me, he should have been top 50. I'm sorry, but Dave DeBusch is not a better basketball player than Dominique Wilkins. I know Knicks fans don't like that, but just is what it is.
It is what it is.
I think ultimately it comes down to the Hawks not being successful come playoff time, not having any championships to show for during his tenure. Him obviously playing in the same conference as Bird and Jordan, and him not being in that same breadth as them, right, because of the lack of championships. But outside of that, Dominique Wilkins was a bucket, right? And he played in a very small market, and I'm glad now that he's starting to get his just due as a legend.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's take a quick look at some of what Dominique did out there. Now, and I'll be honest, guys, I've seen a lot of different highlights from Dominique. I put together this little quick package, but this doesn't give you any inkling into who Dominique was. Like, these highlights are all right, but there's way better highlights out there. And it would go on forever. I mean, I was looking, there was some videos that were like 15 minutes long of Dominique. Like, it was nuts. I can't do that, but looking at him, man. Like, look at the ups, man. This guy. Whoo-wee.
Got there, Bird.
Yeah. What you doing, Bird? Dominic was no joke, man. Yeah, have a seat, Bird. Oh no, insult to injury. Let's see it again. Look at that. Oh, his little Jordan flip move right there. That's why I like to call it. I mean, the guy's leaping ability was incredible. And the fact that he was such a good shooter, too.
Look at that. Good fake. Take that, Lambeer. You don't want that?
Dunking all over these Celtics. Yeah. Oh, no. Don't do it to us. Oh, look at this. He got his little Elijah on. Oh, boy. Wow. I mean, the guy just glided, bro. I guess he liked that little flip move, huh? Oof. Look at that move. Look where he jumped from. He still pumped and dunked with 2 hands. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, man. This guy, special. Wow. I mean, that's just, he's a player that you wish you were able to see somebody like this in today's NBA, man. We need some guys like this. This is special. Ooh, hard dunk. Break your. You don't even want to jump on that. We break your hand on the rim. Oh man.
I mean, this is an Atlanta legend we're talking about, folks. I mean, this guy, went to the University of Georgia, so he was, drafted to Atlanta. And this is just a hometown guy. So this is always going to be, their guy. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, man. Once again, salute to Mr. Dominique Wilkins, man. They don't make them like that anymore. Special, because you see guys who are really good shooters. You see guys who are really good dunkers. It's rare that you see a guy who's a really good shooter and a really good dunker combined. And that's what made him so special. And that's why he averaged so many points. That's why he always competed with Jordan for the scoring title. Like a guy who can do whatever he wants on the court. Oh, you don't come out? All right, I'll pop it. I'll pop the shot. Oh, you want to come out? I'll go right by you and dunk. That's a tough player to stop, man. Oh man, that's
no question about that.
Where's Dominique Wilkins Jr.? We need somebody, man.
We had Gerald Wilkins.
We had Gerald, but he was no Dominique.
Right.
Yeah, man. So, once again, salute to Dominique Wilkins, an NBA legend. We appreciate you here at Still Knicks Fans and NBK. So thank you. Yeah, man, that brings us to our New York Knickerbockers, man. So last night we were able to, win against the Portland Trailblazers, and that team that they put out there was a tough team to watch. So the fact that we won convincingly is a good sign. I like the fact that it wasn't like a close game and the Knicks just pulled it out. It was a blowout. It developed slowly, but when it got there, it stood there, and they just kept the foot on the gas. I thought it was really interesting that Tibbs put Randall and Mitchell Robinson back in the game with 6 minutes left when they were up like 23 points. But, it is what it is. Tibbs has his way of doing things. I ain't going to be mad at it. But, I thought it was interesting. What'd you think about how they played last night and how they've been looking overall over this past, 10 games or so?
Yeah, the thing with the Knicks is, to me, I think they've been playing well. It's just we can't close games. That's just the difference. Like, to me, I think the Knicks could have won so many games against some really good teams, right? Brooklyn, Philly, Phoenix, like some really good teams that we just failed to close the door against. And I think that's just been a problem for pretty much the majority of the second half of the season. To me, that's the difference between the Knicks fighting for getting into, top 6. Now they're fighting to get into the top 10. I think those games right there. I think RJ hit the nail on the head. He think, because people were questioning, the Knicks, how good the Knicks are. But, the Knicks, they are a good team. They just can't close games, right? Which, I guess people can argue that doesn't make them a good team. Right. But I think, this is all a part of the learning process. Even though we're not winning the games we thought we were going to win, I do think the players are taking something from everything that's going on right now, particularly RJ, particularly Emmanuel quickly. I think moving forward, this is going to help RJ Barrett ascend to that leadership role. He's not the leader of the team yet. Right now, the Knicks don't have a leader, in my opinion. But I think eventually, if this starts to happen, you can tell RJ is organically starting to take over that role. And I think that's one of the positives that we can take from this season going into the next season. And hopefully we can be able to close some more games, maybe depend on RJ a little bit more at the end of the games. I think it'd be good for him in his career and for us ultimately at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. I know it's a real tough, tall task for the Knicks to make this play-in, guys. I think they got to go 10-4, and they need teams to lose. That's a lot. And they, we can't be mad at them if they're not able to do it, because, well, we can be mad that they put themselves in this position to have to scramble like this towards the end. So if it doesn't happen, you know what? You can't fault them at this point. They're finally starting to play some better basketball. A lot of the guys that people were clamoring for out there playing now. So it's kind of like,
and they still want them to lose.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, the other thing that's like, I'm one of those, I've passed that point years ago when the Knicks were horrible, and then they started winning like the last 6 games of the season and messed up their mathematical chances for lottery balls. I was pissed. But this team is different because we're not as bad as that team or those teams. So I just want them to play basketball. And I feel like, listen, they have some issues, and if they those issues ain't going to just go away. So they're going to lose games anyway. You don't have to worry about them tanking or anything. Certain games, they're just not going to show up. Something's going to happen. Unless they go 14-0 in the next 14 games, which I don't think is possible, they'll be in the spot where they need to be in the end. And whatever lottery balls they get, it's going to turn out the way it's always going to turn out. Because even if the Knicks were the worst team in the league, something tells me they won't get the first pick. So it is what it is, guys.
Yeah, no question about that. And Ron, just so you know, breaking news, Saddiq Bey just dropped 51 points against the Magic just now on 27 shots. Literally the game just ended not too long ago. So Saddiq Bey, let's add him to that list of guys who got 50-point games.
That is crazy.
Shout out to Sim. That's his guy.
I was just thinking, because when I was looking at the game earlier, I was like, not only is this, the two worst teams in the East, but there's a lot of players for each team that are out, like no Cade Cunningham, no Jeremy Grant. So I was like, one of these guys is going to step up, and I just didn't know who it was going to be. And Saddiq Bey has his moments, but I didn't think he was going to go off like this.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Another guy who we could have perhaps drafted, right? Over Obi. Over Obi. Yeah.
Sheesh. And that goes to that. See, this is an interesting thing, guys. This goes, but I think it's in fairness, you got to look at that in any situation. Now, Saddiq Bey is a lot more gifted than Obi Toppin as far as he can dunk like Obi. Maybe, Obi has a little notch of, above him, but Saddiq Bey is a high flyer. Saddiq Bey plays decent defense, probably better defense than Obi. Saddiq Bey is a better shooter than Obi.
More reliable, that's for sure.
More reliable. So, you already got that skill set there. So a guy like that, given an opportunity, and this is what I kind of say with any of our Knick players that we think is worth something, that has a good skill set. If you make them a focal point of the offense, you start to see special things. And I'm not saying we want to be in that position. I'm just saying some of these guys might be better than we think if the circumstances were different. If we had a point guard who utilized them better, or if they were given an opportunity to get a little more shots as far as their usage rate, you might see something different from them. Obi's tricky, but some of these other guys, like a Grimes, I think if you give Grimes a certain number of shots each game, Grimes is going to score. Sometimes he's going to have some clinkers, but some nights he's going to be on fire. So I'm just saying, NBA players.
I don't think you're totally wrong about this, but I'll I'm going to double down on your point. But you look at a player like Saddiq Bey, right? And Saddiq Bey, obviously a better defender than Obi, right? Can definitely more reliable knock down that shot. But if you go back to draft night, there's no way you're telling me you're taking Saddiq Bey over Obi Toppin. Not on draft night. On draft night. Obi Toppin was projected to go top 4, and he fell down to 8 because Chicago shocked everybody and took Patrick Williams instead of Obi Toppin, right? But Obi Toppin was projected to go top 5. He was projected to get drafted before Tyrese Halliburton and Denny Avdia and all these other guys, right? So this whole thing about tanking for a better draft pick, to me, does not make any sense, because no matter what, you still have to draft the right guy. People fall in the draft all the time. People fall to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Some really good basketball players. I'm talking Devin Booker. I'm talking Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm talking Donovan Mitchell. These guys fall to 12, 13, 14, 15 in the draft, right? And Kawhi Leonard, 15th in the draft, right? And the teams were in that position, right? And they chose those players. But the 15 teams ahead of them or 14 teams ahead of them didn't choose that, because come draft night, they were like, okay, I'm going to draft this guy. This guy has a higher upside based on what this person did in college, right? So this whole notion about tanking for a higher draft pick, to me, doesn't make any sense. You still have to scout properly, and you still have to draft the right guy. To me, the Knicks have one of the best scouting departments in the NBA, in my opinion, come draft time. I know that they probably missed out on Obi, but I'm looking at Grimes. I'm looking at Emmanuel Quickly. I'm looking at Mitchell Robinson. I'm looking at, a lot of these other players that the Knicks have that they were able to find and they're going to do good with. So no matter where the Knicks draft, they can still draft talent. If the Knicks are drafting at number 10, I think they can find a really good player at number 10 and develop him perhaps into something legendary. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And honestly, I mean, I'm just being honest, guys. Look, I'm a Knicks fan, just like a lot of you who are tuned in. Some of you may not, because this is the NBA report. Some of you are just NBA fans, and some of your favorite teams we might have already covered. But I mean, if we're trying to have the right thing happen for Obi needs to be on another team.
Or trade Randall. Or you trade Randall.
Or you trade Randall. You're right. But I actually would love to see Obi on a young team that can use him as a focal point of their offense, where he can learn and grow. He'll become a better offensive player because he's got to be one of the primary scorers on the team. He's got to learn how to be better. Like when you're thrust in that position, sometimes it brings the best out of you because you got no choice. Like you're the man, you're one of the people there. You're going to have to score the ball. You're going to have to figure out how to be more productive. You're going to have to be a better defender because you need to get stops, and they're looking to you. Like, I think that would help him a lot.
Ron, but to your point, it doesn't happen for every rookie the same way.
That's true. That's true.
Look at Kevin Knox. The Knicks gave him time out the gate, and it just didn't work out. It did not work out whatsoever. He's not a guy you can just throw like that out there and expect him to he has no choice but to do this, right? Mm-hmm. So I think, this conversation, I've argued with people this all the time. I get called dumb, stupid, and ignorant and naive and every word you can think of except the child of God on Twitter. But I argue this point just to let people know the Knicks have been trying to do this for years. This is not the year for the Knicks to tank and, the Knicks, we need to lose so we can get higher draft position and all that. The Knicks have had a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. They drafted Porzingis instead of drafting a Devin Booker. They've had top picks in the NBA and still haven't gotten it right. They drafted Kevin Knox over Mikal Bridges and the other Bridges kid, right? You have to draft the right guy and develop that guy and put that person in a position to be successful. Right? Period. Point blank. So I'm not trying to tank. I do believe, like you said, if Obi was in a position where I guess he was starting, maybe it could help him a little bit. But we just have to wait and see with Obi. I think eventually, if Obi's going to be that guy, no matter what, it's going to come no matter what. Whoever is in front of him, Obi's going to show that he's just there. But to me, I just don't see that from Obi right now.
Yeah, I don't see it right now either. But I do know it's tough, to have to be able to show out when you got a guy like Randall in front of you. That's really tough.
You're right.
Really,
you're right tough about that. No question.
So yeah, man. So I mean, that's kind of the gist of it. We touch on the Knicks all the time. Just want to give you a little brief kind of take on what they got going on and how we feel about it. I thank Josh for being here and holding it down with me. Let me run through the chat, give the chat a little love real quick. Let me see where I left off. Kept Giggles in the building. I think that's where I left off earlier. Jason Garrett, Akuma, David L in the building. Let's see who else I see here. Germ Warfare, Vaughn Allen. Thank you to No Way Jose, who's holding it down early, but he had to go. And appreciate him as always. Let's see who else we got here. Hewlett Samuel, a.k.a. Wadadley, is in the building. Appreciate you, bro. Foxy's here. What's going on, Foxy? Building Roots is in the building. Dripmore. What's going on, Dripmore? How you doing, bro? Gideon Amankwa. What's going on? G Money. What's happening, bro? Let's see. I think that's the gist of it. Or people who I know there's people watching who may not, actually put their thoughts and stuff in the chat. We appreciate you guys as well. So shout out to y'all. Thank you for always tuning in and supporting and watching. Noel Ehim is in the building. Old Heads in the building. Oh man, you're doing something right when our old heads in the building. Will Salkins here. Bamboo Mizik is here. Let me see. I think that's it in the chat. But yeah, there's definitely, I see there's a good amount of you guys watching. Definitely smash that like button. We appreciate you guys showing the support and the love. Josh, thank you once again for jumping on with me, man. I know it's last minute, but like I said, if you can do it, you're always there, and I appreciate you. And I hope you know that if, and the reverse happens, you ever need me or John, we're always there for you as well. What you got going on, man? Where can people find you? I mean, this is nothing but Knicks. Everybody knows Josh, but just in case if you're new and you don't know what Josh, aka Uncle Fulio, is about, tell them a little something, Josh.
Well, yeah, thank you, Ron. Of course, I'm one of the panelists on NBK. I'm definitely a regular contributor on the pregame or postgame coverage or shoot around videos. I've been taking some time off lately. Got to figure some things out, but I'm gonna get another controversy episode this weekend, this Saturday. I'm gonna have my boy Alex from Bad Weather Fans podcast on there. So we are gonna be talking about Knicks. Me and him have some very similar opinions, some very differing opinions or what have you. But I've been trying to get him on for a long time, and I think it's going to be really dope this Saturday, sometime in the mid-afternoon. Still working out those details, but check that out. It should be pretty dope. And then stay tuned next week. I'm going to get another show with Eru as well from Die Hard Knicks, and we're going to talk more about this Knicks season and some things going on. So appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's dope. That's dope. Definitely looking forward to that. So that's Saturday, guys. So definitely tune into the controversy. And shout out to my man Eru. What's going on, brother? And salute to Canal Band Lauya in the building. I see you. Hebrew Lion of Judah is in the building. So we're about to wrap up the show, guys. But listen, definitely hit that button and watch the replay, man. This was a good show. We went over a lot of stuff. Definitely I had a great time chopping it up with Josh. So as I always say, definitely salute to my man Jose, salute to John, who couldn't be here, but you know what? He's always with me.
Got you, John.
Yeah, you see him on the next one. And if you want to find us, we're Still Knicks Fans. So we have a Monday weekly recap show. So you can catch us on our Still Knicks Fans YouTube channel. Like, comment, subscribe over there. We could use the subscriptions. We're trying to get to 1,000 by April. It's looking a little tough because we're at like 647 right now. We've slowed down. We were hot, but we slowed down a little bit, which is to be expected. So definitely salute to you guys. Thank you for always showing your love. Obviously, you see us on the NBA Report on the Nothing But Knicks channel as you're watching right now, and you can catch us on Saturdays on our Know the Ledge show. This Saturday, I'm going to try to see if I could do a Know the Ledge early because I do have, unfortunately, an engagement that I have to deal with that is not one, little loss in the family. So have to attend that. But I definitely want to give at least a little condensed Know the Ledge early. So it comes on at 11 a.m. So check that out. Thank you guys once again. Tell a friend who tells another friend, about us and let them know that we are rocking, giving you Knick content all the time. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you once again, Josh. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Knick family, listen, we'll be back. We'll be back. Stay tuned. Don't go nowhere because anything can happen. Who knows? Maybe the next time you see us, the Knicks are in the play-in. Or in the running for the play-in, maybe. Okay. All right, y'all. Take it easy. We out of here.
Rest in peace, Scott Hall.
Oh, that's right. Scott Hall, man. A legend, man. Take care, Scott Hall. You were definitely one of the special ones. I appreciate you.
Say hello to the bad guy.
Facts.
Run that.